Hello everyone, today we are going to go over our double exposure project. Um, with this project, again, you're going to have two images. It could be a picture of yourself, it could be a picture of someone else, it could be a dog, other kind of pet, doesn't matter, as long as you took the photo. The secondary image, you're going to look for a non-copyrighted image. Make sure that it's not copyrighted because we're going to put it together in order to make a cohesive piece of artwork. I found this image that was non-copyrighted, so I'm going to play with this. Basically, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to unlock this bottom layer, just because I don't want to worry about messing anything up with it. Secondly, I'm going to add another image in, which I actually already did. You should know how to do that by now. Thank you to one of our seniors this year. He took my portrait yesterday for this project. Just asked for a quick little portrait. With this, though, I did notice that it's a little bit blurry, out of focus. Him and I were working on portraits, and this is one of the quote-unquote mess-up photos, but I wanted to show you how you can adjust your photo for this project and all other projects, how to make them a little more sharp, just in case they're slightly blurry. It's off the screen right now, but if you click up on the filters panel, actually if you go to layer and then you go to new live filter layer and you go to either clarity filter or unsharpen mask, one of those two work really well. I'm going to go with clarity just for, we obviously want it a little bit more clear. So if I zoom in, I'm at about 3 pixels. As I'm moving this over, you can see that it has the appearance of being more clear. It doesn't actually necessarily make it. Basically what it's doing is it's kind of adding a little bit of contrast, and the computer's making the edges a little sharper by like changing the pixels. But you can see basically as I like go all the way up, that's just basically really harsh contrast. We don't like that. We just want to do this just a little bit if we have an issue. I'm not going to hit merge. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit this little red button, and you can see it kind of created like a little group here. I'm going to leave that alone. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to basically mess with the contrast a little bit. I do want to bump up my contrast just a little bit, even though that kind of was what the clarity was doing. It does it slightly differently, so we don't want to mess with that too much. And I'm just going to kind of brighten things up a little bit too, just because I kind of want that sharp difference between the light and the dark. You can see already my image looks a lot more clear, which is a great thing for this because you want a really nice, sharp, clear image. Next thing I'm going to do, and I will fast forward through this, is I'm going to use the pen tool to select around my head. Before I do that, you can see I'm going to pull this down and pull it underneath. Notice the short blue bar. I'm going to pull that over. This way that sharpen only applies to this image. It's called a clipping mask. If I leave it up top, it sharpens everything below it, which I don't want. I just wanted it to sharpen my image. Next, what I'm going to do before I do anything else, actually, I'm going to duplicate both layers. I'm going to pull this original one up, the original background, and I'm going to group these together and turn them off. And I can call this originals, just in case I need to go back to them later on. I have them. We're doing all non-destructive work today, meaning even what we're doing shouldn't get messed up. But just in case it does, I have the originals and I can go back to them. As I said, the next part, I'm going to fast forward through it because you don't need to sit here and watch me sit here and select out of it. But what I want to do is I want to come around and I want to start selecting my body out from the green screen. You're going to notice I'm going to grab the pen tool here, and I'm just going to kind of switch it over to smart mode. The reason why I'm doing smart mode is so this way I can basically move a little quicker. It's going to see where I'm doing my Okay, so you noticed that I got all the way back around to the beginning. At the end, I went up here to the actions bar. Most of you have already explained this to you, but in the actions bar, we have a few different options. The second one is called close curve. It didn't appear as though I closed my selection at the end. So basically what I did right there is it just came in and used this in order to essentially close this line so to make sure that I finished and did my complete way around. Before I do anything, I accidentally forgot to click the top layer first before I did this, so that means I just have to drag this up top. So again, this is that curve we don't want to fill, so I turn that fill off up top here. Now, you may say, Anderson, why did we just do this? It's kind of like the last couple projects, why we're using the pen tool again. Well, the pen tool is a little bit more accurate because you're dictating where the selection is going to go. If you never noticed up top here, there's actually a couple different options. There's mask and selection. What we're going to do is just in case we ever lose this, what we're going to do is we're actually going to use selection. When I hit selection, what happens is that layer mask that I just had converts to now a selection on top of the layer that's last clicked. Well, since this one was the last one, or that shape that I drew was above this layer, it does a selection on that. If I needed to, I can just click off of it and go to a different layer. However, we want to basically do this to this layer anyway, so it doesn't matter. Now, before we do anything else, I'm going to go up to the top of the screen and I'm going to hit select. Next, I want to hit save selection to file. And then I can hit just say face selection. Now, this selection is only going to be if nothing moves here. So that's why we wanted to save the original in its original spot, just in case we ever needed it. And that's another reason why it's always nice to save your original files and where they originally were before you start doing any work. Face selection, so I'll just save it. That'll allow me to later go on to load selection file or selection from file, and I could just find that face selection wherever it may be. It's right there, and then this way, this selection would come back up if I needed it, or if I accidentally got rid of it. Next, I am going to, because my face is all selected, including my shoulders and everything, I am just going to hit this layer mask button, and you're going to notice all the green goes away. Now I can hit deselect. You're going to notice that just a little bit in here. If I were to zoom in right here, see how you can see that little extra green over there in this screen itself. Basically, what I can do is I can click on that layer mask, come in with a black brush. I'm going to just make this huge, and I can come in here and I can just make sure that selection didn't do anything over here. Sometimes I had my opacity down from when I was practicing. I just want to do that just to make sure that it's not anywhere on here. Now, you can see that layer mask is like the same layer mask we did in the Something Sliced photo project. If we needed to go back in an area, but I did a really good job of selecting this. Fortunately, we're going to change this image into black and white, so that little green at the top of my head right there, that's all going to go away anyway, so we'll be fine. As I said, we're going to make this black and white. So the next thing is you're going to add in another adjustments layer. You're going to hit black and white. We didn't want to do that to our originals, so that's why we waited till now. Next, you want to pull that black and white into here until you have the short blue bar. Notice that now my face is the only thing that's black and white. I'm going to play with these since I'm lighter skin tone. I need to pull down the red a little bit, so this way we see all of my face colors rather than just the basically super bright white, and I don't want to be that way. So I'm going to bring that down so I have a nice even tones. I want my shirt to be darker. I was wearing a blue shirt, so that means I just have to pull down the blue. It had also a little bit of green in it, so I'm going to actually pull that down, and that will get rid of those little highlights from the reflection of the green screen. You can see as I'm playing with this, all the reflections of the green screen as I go all the way up are super white, so I'm going to pull that down so they're not as noticeable. This cyan, it will also deepen or darken the colors of my shirt, so I'm going to just pull that down a little bit because it did have a little bit of a lighter blue, so the mix between the two wound up creating the color of my shirt. Next thing I want to do is I want to add in a white layer. So I'm going to add a new layer on top of my originals. I'm going to fill in just plain old white. You're going to notice I have a white screen right here. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my background layer and I am going to pull that up. It obviously is hiding my original image, so I'm going to change the filter mode to screen. You're going to see that I'm starting to now get my original image. Down here, there's a couple people in this image, so I obviously would want to play with this to make this so this way they don't appear. What I'm going to do, for my case, I'm just going to make this image larger, and actually, while I was practicing this, I noticed that if I kind of put it right here, it gets rid of both the people, and also it sets up a nice little thing. It almost looks like I'm crying, which is kind of cool. And then it also has that nice big wedge in the top of my head. We also want to create and convert this to black and white. So we're again going to click this black and white, and we can just mess around with this until it's a way that we want it to look. However you want this to look in the end, that is up to you. Again, this is where you're starting to use your artistic ability in order to convert things to the way that you want them. I don't want my face layer to have this adjustment, so I want to pull that over, short blue bar, drop it in. Now the background is just black and white. Now it's where we add another layer mask, and I can hide things that I don't want seen. So like there's a little bit of distraction for me on top of my eyes with this extra stuff that's here. So I'm just going to grab a black paintbrush, which I already have selected. I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller, so this way I don't have it so big. And I'm going to drop the opacity a little bit too. Make sure your hardness is down. And I'm just going to kind of blend this in a little bit. This way my eyes actually come through. And maybe I want to get rid of some of this stuff down here so it has a nice blend to it. The next thing you can do is you can add in another layer just in case you don't want black and white. So I'm just going to add another layer in. I'm going to click over here where the gradient brush is, and I'm just going to add a gradient to it. I'm going to change my lighter colors. I was wearing a blue shirt, so I'm going to change that. Click on the white dot, then click on color. Then I kind of want a dark blue, so I'm going to add that in. Move this over because it's not quite where I want it to be. And then I'm going to click on this side over here, and I don't know, I'm just going to add in a green for trees, make it maybe a little deeper of a color. Now, obviously, that's still hiding the image, so I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to hit soft light, or one of these others. It depends on which way you want it to look. Obviously, some of them not looking so great, maybe color. And I drop down the opacity of it because I don't want this to be like super strong. But you can see that my image is starting to come together. And again, the rest of this is just your artistic ability. You just kind of put it the way you want. The last thing I noticed is my images are a little off. I hit the crop button by accident, sorry. So I'm going to highlight both of these, holding shift, click both of them. I'm just going to move this down just a little bit so it's off the screen. And if I wanted to, I can adjust these any which way I wanted to. I don't like it, so I'm going to put it back. The last thing is I may just want to put this off to the side to create negative space over here, and it gives that waterfall like a place to go, essentially. Or I can put it back to dead center. It's up to you. Choose the way that you want it. This is for you to start having fun and deciding what you want your artwork to really look like. So there aren't any really wrong answers here. I'm here to help. Let me know, and good luck.